Halo has always been a really important franchise, I believe, in gaming as a whole, and even has been important in the esports scene and kind of evolving it over time. And so what I wanted to go ahead and do, guys, in this segment of the show is talk about the top 5 things that we want in Halo Infinite. After we got further information, we of course saw, the gameplay reveal and what it's all going to look like. And there's certainly things that I like, there's certainly things that I dislike. It was parts that felt underwhelming and parts that I thought looked great. And so I wanted to go ahead and give you guys the top 5 things that I want to see in Halo Infinite. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the comment section down below. Some of you may disagree, some of you may agree with what I say as far as my opinion, so I'd love to hear yours down there in that comment section. So let's get into it. So at number 1, guys, for me, this may be controversial and people may not like this, but I truly believe that here with Halo Infinite, they need to wrap up Master Chief's story. And the reason is, guys, is because I believe that over time, the longer this series goes and the more that you rely on just Master Chief, I feel like it kind of is going to hold this series back somewhat. I'll give you an example. When I look at the Gears of War franchise, which is another one of my favorite franchises of all time, Marcus Phoenix, I absolutely loved him as a character. I think he's one of the greatest video game characters of all time. However, when we got to, when the torch was passed essentially from Epic Games over to the Coalition, and they were given the task to continue the Gears of War franchise in the future, when they created Gears of War 4, the torch was passed from Marcus Phoenix to JD Phoenix, his son. And I thought that there was I was very skeptical about that at first. But then when we see that, and we've played it out now, I love their decision to do that, but also keep, Marcus as a side character in the story. And that continues onwards with Gears 5, where JD passes the torch to Kate Diaz. You take the helm as Kate Diaz, and of course JD's still there, and so is Marcus. What I'm getting at, guys, is there comes a point where you need to see the finalization of that character's story. I'm not saying necessarily that you have to kill Master Chief off or something like that, but I think there needs to come a point where the torch is passed to another character. And so Master Chief, I know we kind of saw this in Halo 5 and a lot of people didn't like it, but I think if you did it well enough where in Halo Infinite you kind of introduce some new characters, which we'll get to here in a sec, and you start seeing what the fan base likes as far as which characters are really beloved by other people, that could be a really interesting concept moving into the next iteration of Halo after Infinite. So that's at number 1. Number 2 for me, guys, that I just alluded to, is having new characters, new enemies, new locations, having new weaponry we can use. And obviously, guys, from that gameplay reveal, we saw, for the most part, new characters. We saw that there's going to be, new enemies. However, it doesn't seem like there's a ton of, it doesn't look like there's a lot of change. It looks like obviously we know who our villain is at this point, the main villain. We know that there's going to be brutes and jackals and grunts and such that are making their return. I'd like to see some new enemies come into the fray, though. I think that's going to be important as well. I get the idea that they want to, give a kudos to the past Halo games, but I really think in order for this series to continue moving forward is just to really see that there are similarities, but there's certainly differences as well. The locations, it's hard to say. I mean, I want us to be able to go on multiple worlds. I want us to explore a lot. Obviously, with this open world setting, I'm really hoping that there's a number of different planets that you can, obviously explore around. And if this is, much bigger than the other games, I'm really hoping that there's more enemies and new enemies that we're going up against, as well as new characters, which it seems like we're going to get new characters, guys, in this game. But I just really am hoping that there's a lot of beloved characters that we really enjoy throughout the course of Halo Infinite. That leads me, guys, into number 3. I think it's really important that 343, Industries with this game, they are consistently updating this game after launch in a major way. And I'm really going to bring up like the graphics, guys. The graphics of Halo Infinite, I've stated, I really actually liked the way that overall the graphics looked from a landscape perspective. I know some people really criticized it. I thought the landscapes looked pretty good for Halo, right? In the Halo universe, what they did, sure, it's not, super comparable to like other open world games, but when we look at Halo as a whole and this big open world that they're kind of building here, I liked what I saw. I did not, though, like the graphics around the different, some of the characters, some of the enemies, like the grunts and the brutes and the jackals and such. I did not like those graphics. I did not think that those have gone very well. And so what I'm getting at, guys, is I'm hoping that they continue to update this game as we go. From a graphical perspective, sure, they might not be able to do significant things, but I think that there are things to help along the way. I just think, guys, that this is a game that needs to do really well for Xbox, but it also needs to do really well for 343 Industries. And sure, at the end of the day, the graphics don't make or break a game, but they do definitely, they affect the experience as a whole. And so what I'm getting at is I really want Halo Infinite to, after launch, they continue to update this game in a major way, especially when there's things that the community is stating that need to be changed about it. They are on top of it. That leads me, guys, into number 4, which is the esports scene is very important, in my opinion, for Halo Infinite as a whole. And obviously, we know what happened with Halo 5, and it was an absolute disaster. Halo Infinite needs to have a dedicated esports, in a major way. The esports scene around Halo needs to be something that is a huge dedication to 343 Industries, and I think that they've stated that they're taking it very seriously, which is really good to hear. But I think it's very important, guys, that Halo Infinite has a real support system around the esports scene and multiplayer as a whole. And that kind of leads us back, with graphics and such, but really just making sure that things are changed in a timely manner. I believe, personally, that 343 Industries has learned what they did right, what they did wrong, and what they can do different moving forward from Halo 5 to Halo Infinite. So even from a graphical standpoint, if the character models aren't as good, as long as the game is good, as long as the multiplayer is good, people will play it. And so at the end of the day, guys, that is, really important. This needs to have a very dedicated esports scene. Halo esports, I miss it. I want to see this come back with in a major way, guys. That leads me, guys, to number 5, which I think at the conclusion of Halo Infinite, it's going to be really important that this game sets up the next generation of Halo games for the future of Xbox. It's very important the way that they end this story or end this game, whether it's on a cliffhanger, whether it is pretty, seems finalized, this sets up the future of the Halo games for Xbox, and I think it's going to be really important because we want Halo to continue, guys. This is a franchise that's very beloved by many. This is one of the, this is one of the staples of gaming as a whole, especially for Xbox, but just as for gaming as a whole. It's very important, guys, that we see that continuation happen here, and I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited about Halo Infinite still, even though there seem to be some issues. We got to wait till we get our hands on the game to really see what it's all about. But nonetheless, I'm excited. I'll give you guys a couple of honorable mentions as well, guys. I really want to see in this game more ways that when we come to the multiplayer, you're able, the rank up system kind of reminds you a little bit of like Halo Reach, where there's like, I would love to have the inheritor rank. I'd love to have, really, more than anything, more customization where the things within the game are earnable items over payable items. And so I want to see things that we can earn within the game, having a lot of different ranks and emblems and ways you can customize your characters from a standpoint of earning those things over, paying for them. And I think that's really important, guys. But yeah, having just further customization is kind of other things that are on the side that I really thought are important as well, that I thought I would make an honorable mention. But having things that are earnable over payable. Having payable items is fine, guys. Having monetization within the game is fine, but I think that it shouldn't take away from people trying to earn stuff that you can just pay for in a store. I think that's really important for Halo Infinite. But with that being said, guys, let me know in the comment section down below, what are you guys most excited about with Halo Infinite? What are the things that you guys want to see in Halo Infinite. And for more Halo Infinite content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.